Sunday evening, April the 4th, time for Sunday Night Live Chat. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Always questions, comments, be sure to throw them up there. We'll sure try to get to them as we go through the chat. So we'll take a quick 10, 15, 20-second break here, let everybody get on, and then we will get rolling here just real soon. All right, we've got some people getting on with us. Looks like we're about ready to go and get rolling into tonight's chat. Exciting night tonight. We're going to give away the badge collection. We're going to announce the new raffle for April. We've got some current event news that's going on in the world of old collector cars, and we've, of course, got a magazine for tonight. So James from Texas is on. Glad you made it. Hopefully the systems cooperate tonight. Last week seemed like it went fairly smooth. The week before that, Facebook was a wreck, but hopefully it's working well tonight. So got my good buddy Mike Spainhauer's on. Glad you made it tonight, Mike. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get rolling. Chris is on YouTube. Good. That's the first comment on YouTube. We know. I always wonder till I get a comment on both formats as to whether or not something's going to work. Got Dan from Defiance on. Glad you made it, Dan. Happy Easter to you and everybody else that's on with us tonight. Randy from Michigan's on Facebook. Ironhead made it back. Glad you made it back, Ironhead. Scott's on with us. Glad you made it tonight, Scott. Yeah, that's a kind of a different sign. I actually got that at the American Picker Store several years ago. Supposedly, there was a large collection of those signs found stashed somewhere. Classic Ride Society's on YouTube. Glad you made it. Kevin just got on with us on Facebook. But real quick, I guess before we get too deep into anything, Emery from Wisconsin's on. Supposedly a bunch of these signs were found. I say a bunch, I mean, probably 50 or 100. But they were supposed to have been destroyed. And almost all of the signs have this crease across them because they were supposed to have been chopped in half and it didn't cut them. It just kind of wrinkled them like that. And they got thrown off to the side, and then they were discovered years and years later. So George is on. You made it back, George. Kevin's on with us. Jerry from New Mexico, all on Facebook. So that's the story I got, and supposedly almost all of these independent that you see in this style is going to have this line across them because most of them came out of the same batch when this discovery was made several years ago. But I like it. I thought it was pretty cool, something kind of different. Adam Spitfire, glad you made it tonight, Adam. From the UK, glad you're on with us. So that's kind of the nickel story about that particular sign. Old School's on with us. Glad you're here tonight, Old School. And like I said, we always try to mix it up a little bit, and I kind of limited on space. This is about as big as I can go back there. I think that's a 30-inch, but it's a cool piece. So I'm glad you guys appreciate it and enjoyed it. William's on with us. Glad you made it tonight, William. Always good to hear from you. I need a mic when I've actually got a mic on my phone. I've got an external mic with a windsock that I use when I shoot everything. Actually, anything I shoot, I use an external mic and a windsock. So I don't know what other kind of options I've got as to what I can do with that, but I can look into some other stuff. But yeah, I don't rely on the mic on my phone. I use an external mic with a windsock and a phone holder when we do all those. So maybe we'll try to figure something else out and maybe get the sound a little bit better. But sometimes when you're live outside, especially, you're kind of up against a lot of things that you can't control. That was a long walk, Ironhead. We went almost 100 minutes, an hour and 38 minutes yesterday. Wireless mic. Okay. Yeah. That's something I probably should check into. And see what kind of options they have for that. I'm sure there's got to be something out there, but I'm kind of new to this. I've been doing it for 2 years. In the first 6 months, I had a guy helping me that taught me a bunch of it. So I kind of learn as I go. And just like your comment, Old School, thanks. I mean, now that I know that, it's something I can look into. I got a good buddy, Grant Tommy, with Straight Six Fan on YouTube. He kind of keeps me in line on gear. So something I'll definitely check into on that. Kevin from Houston, Joe from Sandwich, Illinois. Thomas, I'm not going to sell the sign. I don't hardly ever sell a sign. I've got a couple that I probably would sell, but this definitely isn't one of them. And I don't sell any gas, oil, or automotive signs, really. Ironhead, yeah. So many cool cars. There's, like I said, easily 13 or 1400, but I might be pushing 1500 right now. I don't know. I think I bought 20 just in March. Busy. I got a lot of stuff to pick up. Yeah, I think I bought about 20 cars just in March alone. Rode wireless mics. Actually, Rode is what I've got is what I use right now. So, and I have been pretty happy with that brand. So yeah, I'll check and see what they've got. But that RODE mic is exactly what I use. That company. Dusty from Kentucky. So, yeah, like my buddy Mike says, he just lives a few miles away. We are in Kansas, and that's part of it. You're going to deal with some wind, and until you're actually here for a while, you don't really realize how bad it can be sometimes. It's actually very difficult for me to shoot videos. There's a lot of days we just can't do it. It's just so bad. So sometimes, like yesterday, it was real nice before we did the live. I shot 3 or 4 videos yesterday while it was pretty decent out. Let's see, some stuff popping up. Adam got him. Adam's buying promo models too. Yeah, you can do videos on anything you want, Adam. That's the nice thing about it. You can do videos on anything you want to, anything you enjoy or like. You can do videos on it. Cameron Burns Garage. That's a new one. I haven't seen you on before. Glad you made it. Glad you like the old iron. Kevin enjoyed the walk around too. Glad you guys were on. Those are a lot of fun. They're a ton of work. I was pretty beat after I got done with that. There's more work to that than you think. Doing that much walking in that amount of time and trying to keep up with questions. And my daughter was running the phone for me. And I know anything that was a relevant, specific question, she tried to get to me. I know that there was a lot of kind comments and a lot of support that I seen on a couple of them that, she didn't read out because she was just trying to keep up with the specific car questions. So, but I do appreciate you guys jumping on. I appreciate your support and your comments, and glad you guys enjoyed it and had fun with it. So, but like I said, it's always changing. I mean, I'm going to try to somewhat get on a schedule doing those every month or 6 weeks. Just because stuff is always changing. But just like my buddy Mike said, we're in Kansas. You never know what you're going to get. So sometimes when you find a good day, like that to do them, that's when I'm going to try to do them. Classic Ride Society wants to swing by if he goes to the Hutch swap meet. Yeah, just give me a shout because I'll be at the Hutch swap meet as well. So walking backwards is not easy. It's a lot. I mean, fortunately I'm fairly familiar with that, and I say that now. Next time I do a live, watch me fall flat on my butt. But I like to keep talking to you guys while we're doing it, so that's why I walk backwards so I can keep talking to you guys and checking stuff out. Scott from Ottumwa, Iowa's on. Glad you made it tonight. But anyway, like I said, I'll try to keep working those in on a more regular basis, to keep up with what's going on. John's on. Glad you made it, John, on Facebook. Classic Ride Society, need to look at the 70 Pontiac full size. That's fine. We did catch them yesterday, so you can get in and get a little better look at them instead of just the video. Okay, catch all the 80s and 90s GM stuff. That's what Adam wants to see, and that's becoming a big part of this hobby is that 80s and 90s stuff. And the crazy part about it is I can't find it. It's actually, and the crazy part about it is that I bought about 20 cars in March, and I don't think any of it was 80s or 90s stuff. It was all 40s and 50s, and I'll try to buy the 80s or 90s stuff. It's just hard to find. So that's something that we're really going to be up against in the future, trying to find some of that stuff. Mick says the best time on Sunday is right now. So I appreciate that, Mick. Glad you made it tonight. Glad you're having fun hanging out with us. But anyway, what's going on in the world of old cars? If you live in Kansas, one thing I did see, Dave from Michigan's on. Yeah, that's right, Classic Ride Society. G-bodies used to be everywhere. They're kind of like the old coupes used to be back in the 30s coupes. Once they got cheap and used up, people turned them into circle burners, and that's what happened to the G-bodies. There just isn't a lot of them left because a lot of them got turned into circle track cars. Ironhead says we talked about some of the differences in internationals, and that's very, very critical if you're doing a 40s era international because they are completely different trucks. There are 2 different 1940s era international trucks, and they are completely different trucks. So yeah, we did touch on some of that stuff as well. But Some exciting news if you live in Kansas. I see my buddy Robert posted some of this stuff the other day. He keeps up on this real well. In Kansas, there's been a huge debate over what is or is not considered an antique vehicle. They did introduce legislation to basically say if it is a 57 Chevy, it is a 57 Chevy. The way the laws in Kansas currently read, if it's a 57 Chevy with a 98 Chevy motor in it, it cannot be considered an antique 57 Chevy. So legislation was introduced to basically say if that's what it is, that's what it is. They're not going to get picky about this, that, or the other thing. That passed the House a few weeks ago. It just passed the Senate. It's heading to the governor's desk. So for all of us that live in Kansas, we are hoping that that gets signed into law. So that ends the debate as to what is or is not considered an antique vehicle, because the way the law was written, any modification, radio was modified, and could not be considered an antique at that point if you put a different radio in. So hopefully that gets signed into law. And here in Kansas, we don't have to worry about some of that stuff anymore. Some comments popping up. Don't want to get too far away on them. And actually, yep. And I got this exact same comment almost from Old School on YouTube and Andrew on Facebook. Cash for clunkers. And that is 100% true. Cash for clunkers was when around 08, 09, I think. And you got a $3,500 trade-in on it. Well, those cars from the 80s and 90s at that point were essentially worthless. They were just basic, cheap junk transportation. You got $3,500 trading it in. There were a lot of cars and pickups from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that disappeared in cash for clunkers. So literally had the same comment pop up on both formats at almost the same time. So, but there is a lot of truth to that statement. That killed a lot of them. And once they were turned in to cash for clunkers, they were crushed, as is, where is, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They were destroyed and they were gone. So lots of stuff disappeared on that. Cameron Burns Garage, do I ship parts to Canada? If it's small stuff, I can ship it typically USPS. You get into some bigger stuff, it gets pretty tricky. So it would just depend on what you need and what we needed to do to get it done. It can be done, but I know the bigger the package, the more complicated it gets. So it just depends on what you need. New York is on, looking for a nice 58 to 60 Lincoln Continental driver. Do not know of anything there, Hudson. I've got two in the yard, but obviously they're just parts cars. But don't know of any decent 58 to 60 Lincolns right now. So if anybody always got a 58 to 60 Lincoln, Hudson's got one, or is looking for one. Joe from Florida's on. Lee from New York, we just caught you. New Zealand, Gasser 61 from New Zealand. Glad you made it. Appreciate you swinging by tonight and hanging out with us. The Old School says in Canada they don't have emissions, no longer have emissions in Canada. That's got to make that's kind of nice to not have to deal with some of that stuff. James is back on YouTube. Glad you made it, James. Okay, that was Hudson. Okay, looks like we're caught up. Things were scrolling in there pretty quickly, so didn't want to miss anybody. Trying to stay caught up. So anyway, hopefully the Kansas vehicle law goes into effect. What else is going on? Meekum Houston is coming up next weekend. I think it starts Thursday. Once again, after Glendale and Barrett and Scottsdale last week, obviously the market is strong. Big prices on a lot of stuff. So curious to see what happens at Meekum Houston. Flipped through the list last night and they got some really neat stuff coming up. A couple things that stood out: 1956 Ford Meteor convertible, which was a Canadian-built Sunliner. Super cool car. Said they made 450 of them. Something else that stood out we don't see very often today. Speaking of 80s and 90s cars, 1991 GMC Cyclone. Those were exciting little pickups. Typhoons and Cyclones, those were cool. 42 Ford COE ramp truck. So they got some cool stuff lined up for Meekum Houston. If you're down in that area, you'll probably definitely want to check that out. If nothing else, just go in and check out the iron that's coming in. Let's see. Classic Ride Society in Florida, they don't have any inspections anymore either. So that's probably handy if you live in Florida. So Stan's on Facebook. Glad you made it. So if you're anywhere in South Texas, you might want to check out Meekum Houston next week. If not, you can always watch it online or check out some of their coverage on TV. because it looks like, after what we saw in Arizona last weekend, it ought to be an interesting sale and some cool stuff. Speaking of auctions, my partner Chris Froescher and I are going to get together this week to start on F&E Collector Auto Auction for this October. It's going to be this, I think, will be our 6th one. Grows every year. We're having a great time with it. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, be sure to try to make it out that weekend. We have a great time. If you've got anything you want to consign with us, now's the time to get it in. With our online platform with Proxy Bid, we ship cars all over the world. We get just as strong a numbers as most places, with very, very fair commissions and low entry fees. But we've still got the platform to get it out worldwide. So really excited about that. Talked to a lot of people already that have stuff that they're planning on bringing this year. So super excited about what we've got coming together with that. So stay tuned. I'll be bringing you more about the F&E Collector Auto Auction after Chris and I meet this week and start hammering out the details on a marketing plan. So if you've got something you're thinking about selling, now's the time to get it in. Like I said, we're going to start building the marketing plan this week. So the earlier in, the more we can do with it, and the more people we can show your vehicle to, and hopefully get them either here on the floor on that Saturday or at least online on Proxy Bid with us. So a few more comments popping up. Cameron Burns is in Canada too. He said that was the best day ever when they scrapped the clean air test, the drive clean tests in Canada. So Classic Ride Society says it went away to Florida in the 90s. So let's see what we got popping up here. Mark, happy Easter from Syracuse. Glad you made it, Mark. And that's right. Like Brad says, he loves how people see something on Barrett Jackson and think that their 4-door 3 on the tree that's rusted out is worth the same thing as a high dollar big block convertible. And that does happen. And that happens with anything. I mean, I don't care what you deal with, coins, guns, anything like that. Somebody sees one kind of sort of similar, maybe kind of within the same realm of it, and theirs is worth a fortune. But that does happen, and it happens anywhere, and there's nothing we can do about it. But there's a lot of truth to that statement. It definitely does happen. You got a step ahead of me, Mike, buddy Mike Spanhauer. Actually, that is the next thing on my list tonight. So we're definitely going to get to that about the Race Motive event, because I've actually been very, very deeply involved in getting that event put together. So I know that inside out. So we'll get to that in a minute. John from Rhode Island's on. Adam says 4th gen Firebird and the walk around. Actually, I know you've been asking for some F-body stuff, Adam. So I did shoot a little bit of that yesterday when we had the decent weather. I do have a video with some F-bodies in it. Like I said, my fence is laying on half of my F-bodies. So I've got to finish getting my fence. All my fence posts are built. I got to get them painted so I can start putting the new fence up. But I did get some F-body shot yesterday, and there's 2 2nd gens, 2 3rd gens, and 1 4th gen in that video. So we're getting some of that done, and I'll get you more F-bodies in the near future, Adam. Yeah. What's another thing about emissions testing is they're still taking cats and everything off of cars too to get her to run them without them. So that's another issue with the emission stuff. I don't know what they run into in Canada with that, but it happens here too. Let's see. We got a bunch of stuff popping up on Facebook. Tom from Oklahoma, glad you made it. Tim from Nashville, glad you're here. And Jason from Iowa, glad all you guys made it. And so that gets us caught up there. Like I said, F&E Collector Auto Auction. Be sure to keep an eye on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and our website. And if you've got something that you want to list and run with us and sell this October, be sure to give me a call, and we will sure get you taken care of. Now, Arc City Swap Meet is coming up in a couple weeks down in Arc City, Kansas at MAD, the Mid-America Dragway. Their inaugural swap meet was last year. This will be their 2nd swap meet. They have contacted me to make sure I'm coming down so we can do some video. I said, absolutely. I'm going to do everything I can to try to make it. So our plans are to be at the Arc City Swap Meet here in a couple weeks in the middle of April and be bringing you some content from there as well. So if you're in the Midwest, something you might want to think about. They had about 70 vendors last year in their inaugural year. When I talked to them 2 or 3 weeks ago, that had almost doubled. They were well over 100. So heading straight towards at least doubling what they did last year. So John, 69 C10 hood. I've got a couple of those laying around. I'd have to see how good they are. If you want to give me a shout after we get done, I can sure get you on my list and see what those look like. William, got a good friend, William, 69 Chevelle two-door Poster, 65 Chevelle two-door wagons. None, don't have any of that stuff at all right now. Old School has a question. Yeah, we can sure absolutely get into that. I don't want to keep you guys on all night, so we can always adjust if we run too long, but absolutely. Tom, Ark City is the swap meet we're talking about, Ark City, Kansas. Old School says, can you tell us the story with your dad and the business and how long he's been doing it? My dad grew up around cars. He was born and grew up in Russell, Kansas up until his senior year in high school when he moved to Great Bend. Worked at the Deep Rock gas station in Russell, Kansas. Grew up around cars, just loved cars, and was his passion from a young age. Built model cars, and was just always in cars. So it was always a hobby. And my grandpa liked old cars, so they bought a couple of old cars in the late 70s. My dad was always fixing up cars, even when he was in his mid-teens. He bought a 57 Ford, fixed it up, sold it, bought another 57 Ford, fixed it up, sold it, to get to a 57 Chevy, which is what a lot of people wanted back then. So that's kind of how he started. After he graduated, he went to through the auto mechanics program here in Barton County Community College in Great Bend, and went straight into a dealership. All the while messing with old cars on the side and doing rebuilders and things like that. In the late 70s, my grandpa wanted an old car. My dad found actually the dealership my dad worked at, somebody traded in a wrecked 58 Buick Super, and my grandpa liked it, so they bought that and put a fender and a hood and stuff on it and painted it, and that was kind of my grandpa's old car, and that's kind of how they started messing with them. Scott made it back. Glad you're on with us, Scott, on Facebook. So real quick, everybody, if you're just getting on with us, Old School asked how my dad got into this and how I rolled into it as well. So he bought that 58 Buick Super that my grandpa wanted, and he needed some parts for the Roadmaster. So what happened is he bought a 1948 Buick Special that he found somewhat locally for parts for his Roadmaster. However, at the time, what he didn't realize is in 1948, a Special and a Roadmaster are two completely different cars. So he had already bought this car, and there was only very little he could use off of it because so much of it was different than the Roadmaster. And his Roadmaster was a pretty good car. He didn't need much for it anyway. But so he started selling a few parts off of it. And this was around 1980, roughly. Robert's on. Glad you made it from Tennessee tonight, Robert, on YouTube. So he started selling a few parts off that 48 Special. Well, then they bought another. They'd bought a couple of 58 Buicks for parts for the 58 Buick they were fixing. And then he just started selling a part here, started selling a part there. Well, then it just kind of grew, and they had a building in a little town called Galatia, Kansas, and they were just lining up their parts cars for what they were working on beside the building, and then started selling a few parts off of it. Well, that grew, and then that grew into a few more, and that grew into a few more, and by the late 80s, there were a couple of hundred cars out there, and by the mid 90s, there were probably 350 cars out there. So I've been around it essentially, my whole life. I was born in 74, so I grew up pulling parts off of Buicks, and I cut my teeth on 40s and 50s era Buicks. Van from Waterloo, Illinois, glad you made it. So I've always been into it. And like I said, my dad worked at dealerships up until about 90, and then he went into the aftermarket parts business as a rep for what was first Big A, which was a Midwest company, and then CarQuest. So I grew up in it. I've been around it my whole life. I've been around old cars my whole life. I primarily dealt Buick parts as a kid. That's what I knew the best. And then after I went to college, I actually went to Chrysler for almost 5 years in warranty administration. I graduated from Pitt State and went straight to Chrysler warranty administration as a field warranty specialist. And I traveled the country working with dealership service departments. It was kind of almost a consulting type position. We ran under warranty administration, but it was a consulting type position for dealership service departments. And after I quit Chrysler, just because I couldn't take the corporate world, I bought one CarQuest store, then I bought another CarQuest store, but was still always, after I quit traveling for Chrysler and started buying the stores, I started messing more and more with old cars again and selling a few more parts. Well, in 2010, the facility that I own now became available. Ralph made it back. Glad you're here, Ralph. It was a regular late model production yard. There wasn't hardly any cars in there that were over 20 years old. And I went out and made a deal with the owner that I just wanted to buy the dirt in the buildings. I didn't want any of his late model inventory. Didn't want any of his wreckers. All I needed was the dirt in the buildings. At that time, I had about 120 cars stashed on some ground out west of town. I had somebody that wanted to buy that ground, and so I was able to work a deal with the former owner of the facility I own now, which I'd known him my whole life, so it was pretty simple. Great guy, big car guy as well, and he crushed everything in there except I think there's 4 cars out there that I bought from him in 2011 when we closed that deal. So basically everything you see out there, with the exception of the stuff on the north side of me, which has been tied up in that estate for a decade that I just got bought. I've done everything you see on the primary side since 2011. So that's kind of the nickel tour on how that came about. And my dad still has a big car collection. He's still got buildings full of parts. And that's why we moved all of his cars to my place. There was no point in him having another dealer's license and in paying to insurance and licenses and everything to let his stuff sit there when I had this facility 20 miles away, and we could just put it all in my place, which is also licensed. So another one from New Zealand. Glad you're here, New Zealand. That's a couple of you tonight from New Zealand. So glad you guys made it. Tom, drove by in the late 70s and 80s, 90s north of Great Bend, stopped once. So that was probably the facility on the north side of me that I just got bought about a year and a half ago. So that because my primary yard now was a regular late model production yard. So yeah, that's right. And yeah, Dad can relax. He's not going to go out and pull bumpers. He still sells a lot of parts, but he's still got 3 buildings out there just full of parts on shelves of cars that we've stripped out over the years. So he still sells a lot of stuff on eBay, but it's all little small stuff that he likes to mess with. He still goes to swap meets. When we go to Arc City, he'll be there, and that's what we do because that's all he's ever done. He wouldn't know any different. So he still sells a lot of parts, but he doesn't want to go out and have to pull bumpers and pull fenders and things like that. So, and tinker with his own cars because he's got over 20 cars that are done as well. So, we've got a lot of nice, good cars as well that we got to take care of. So that's kind of the nickel tour of how that came about and why we moved all those cars in to my place from his, and how I got to where I'm at today. So anyway, thanks for asking. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it didn't bore anybody with a story. If you got more questions, anything like that, you can ask me. It's an open book. I don't have anything to hide from anybody. So anytime you got questions about that stuff, be sure to ask me. But anyway, on to the next topic real quick. And if you got any other questions about how I got here, be sure to throw them up there. So Robert in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, I'm living his dream. Well, thanks, Robert. Thanks, Ironhead. Great. Ironhead liked the story. Is there a next generation to keep it going? Cameron asks. My daughter is very into cars. She does go off to college next year. We'll see what happens at that point. I don't know what her plans are, 10 years down the road. I can't answer that. She does have a couple of topics she's very interested in that she's going to college for starting next fall. So we'll see what happens. But she ran the Camry yesterday. She read all the questions yesterday. She knows that stuff pretty well. The 1940 Ford COE that we've been working on. If you haven't caught that video, be sure to check the video out on that truck. That's actually her truck. She's very passionate about old cars, signs, toys, memorabilia. I tried not to force any of it on her, but she drifted towards it, and she does have a deep passion and love for it, and she is very, very knowledgeable about it, which is really handy for me, especially doing videos because and actually sometimes we've done some lives before where she'll get ahead of me because somebody will ask a question, and as she's reading the question to me, she's just heading over to that vehicle we're asking about. If they asked about that 58 Ford or that 47 Chevy, she knows which car they're asking about, so she heads over to it, and I'm trying to play catch up. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I can't predict the future, but she does definitely have an interest and a passion for it as well, just like all of us. So let's see. Thanks, Robert. Do you like the story? Might have to adopt a boy to keep it going. LOL. I don't think so. I mean, it's tough keeping up with one. That's when she's got a lot of activities going on there. That's a lot going on. So, and she does have a lot of activities that she enjoys as well. So, but it is fun, and she does enjoy it. So who knows what the future is going to bring? But the interest is definitely there. 65 F100 says I can adopt him. So, anyway. Kind of got off track, but that's okay. If you guys like hearing it, we'll talk. No big deal. But on to the next exciting thing that my buddy Mike Spade Howard brought up, and I have been heavily involved in this project for the last 2 months. Ironhead Garage once adopted too. Well, I hope you guys don't eat very much because I have stayed plenty busy trying to keep up with what I've got going on. Ralph is still looking for a 72 Chevy Cheyenne Super. Have not bought anything like that recently. But you never know. All this stuff I bought in March, which I say was like 20 of them, I didn't know about any of it, and none of it was further than 30 or 40 miles away from me. So, buddy BJ just got on. Glad he made it. He's working on his son's truck. Jason on Facebook's up for adoption as well. So. I know I can't feed all you guys. I guarantee you that. Cameron Burns Garage. He grew up in hobbies and collectibles store, and that's where he got his passion for collecting. And that's what happens, and that's what it does. Kevin's on. Kevin bought a '69 New Yorker from my dad a couple years ago. That was a slick old car too. He's enjoying that. That was a great car. I really liked that car. So I'm glad that worked out well for you as well. Because like I said, that's all he does. Even though he's retired, he's still buying and selling cars and trucks and parts. That's what he does. So, but anyway, this other project that I've been deeply involved with, obviously you guys know that I'm heavily involved with the SRCA drag strip. I guess I'm heavily involved there. It seems like there's more and more that I get involved in doing. New event. I've basically been involved in getting this project put together for the last couple months. Many phone calls. And getting all this set up. Kevin, 71 Torino wagon. I don't have any of those. The only 71 Torino I've got is a two-door hardtop. So the only thing I've got sitting here right now. Organization by the name of Race Motive. They're out of Pennsylvania. They found us and they contacted us, and they did put a full press release out, and they have open registration as of Saturday for this event. They are coming here to Great Bend, Kansas, to the SRCA drag strip to run, and this is something totally new to me. I'm learning this as we go. A new event, 2 different formats, roll racing and standing half mile. So this is something that's never been done before here. They typically do these on airstrips because they need the length. However, since our drag strip was an airstrip, it was a B-29 base in World War II. They said we have the length to do it. Not only do we have the length to do it, we'll have a brand new track that can be prepped. Their problem is when they do these on airstrips is it's hard to prep them like you do a drag strip. A drag strip is designed for prep. It is designed to hold rubber and sticky stuff and the gold dust and everything they need to put them down to get traction. So that event, like Mick says, just think of the tax write-off with all my new family members. I don't think I'd be so broke. I don't think I'd have to worry about any taxes. I wouldn't be able to pay any bills. So, Ralph says, looking for wife. Please send size and picture of the Morton buildings. Let's see. 65 F100s that was laughing. You guys are a lot of fun. We're having a blast on here. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. And like I said, like I keep telling you, you guys are the ones that make this what it is. So it's not me. It's all of you guys hanging out and then the banter and the fun we have. So, but this roll racing thing is completely different, completely new. I don't know a lot about it. I've never been to a roll racing event or a standing half mile event, but we're having one here in the first weekend in June. The organization Race Motive, you can look them up at racemotive.com. They've got a Facebook page. And like I said, this is going to be a learning experience for all of us. They bring their own crew in. They have their own timing system. And it looks really exciting. I don't know a lot about it, but I did check with a few people. I called Kyle Loftus with 1320video.com, asked him what roll racing was, and he said it's It's a great deal, and it's getting very, very popular. And obviously 1320 Video has a very, very big presence in that arena. And if he said it's that important, then it's something that's coming up. So really looking forward to see what's going to happen with that and see where it's going to go. It's and like I said, it's all new to all of us. We don't have any clue. We've never done it, but they said we want to come here. We love what we see. We've done some FaceTime videos where I walked them around out at the track, showed them what we had, showed them out the window of the tower, and said that it looks just perfect. It looks great for what we need. And so that's what we're hoping is going to happen, that it's going to be just – and they want to come back. So we're hoping the event goes off very, very well because they want to come back. They want to keep racing here. They love what they see. And it's going to be something new for all of us. So we'll see how it goes. David W. from Ohio's on. Glad you made it, David. I know you've been hanging out with us on a pretty regular basis. Glad you made it back. So the race motive thing is going to be new, exciting, fun. If you're anywhere in the Midwest, definitely think about trying to come out. It's the first weekend in June. There is a car show down on the Courthouse Square that Friday night for the Party in the Park event the City of Great Bend is putting on, or excuse me, June John event that the City of Great Bend is putting on. So those cars will all be down on the Courthouse Square that Friday night, and we'll be out there running hard Friday and Saturday, June 4th and 5th, I believe. So if you're anywhere in the Midwest, put that on your calendar. Be sure to try to get out here and check it out. And hey, if you've got something you want to run, get on there and get registered because they've sold. I talked to him about 30 minutes after they opened registration, and he already had about 25 cars registered yesterday morning. So I'm sure it's going to fill up. It's an exciting deal, and I'll keep you guys posted as I learn more because all I know is what they're telling me and what I'm learning from making some phone calls and talking to some other people about it. But sounds like that it's next to no prep drag racing, it's the next big thing. So we're going to find out. We're going to give it a shot. Let's see, Emery. Late 60s, early 70s passenger side sport mirror for like a Mustang or a Cougar. I do not have anything there at all right now. Yeah, one of the cats did jump up on the desk. That wasn't meowing as I poked it to get it out of the way. So, yeah, you did hear her. So, that's what's going on. Who's ready to check out a magazine tonight? Kind of got off course. I hope we're not dragging on too long for you guys. I hope we're not boring you to death. But tonight we're going to check out another magazine from the 70s, and I love mixing this stuff up. I love doing the 50s stuff, the 60s stuff, but I want to start mixing some 70s and 80s stuff. So we're just going to grab something randomly every Sunday night and check it out if you guys are still enjoying it. This one's kind of interesting. There was, and like all these magazines, the more I look up, the more I see, the more into it I get. So Old School says, let's see it. Well, let's see it. And you're all going to recognize the cover. I guarantee you that, or what's on the cover. The 1977 Car and Driver from July. I know we all recognize that thing, the world famous DeLorean. So obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the DeLorean in this segment, but not exactly what you would think we might talk about as far as the DeLorean. The DeLorean story is going to get another twist, but let's go ahead and get into it. Let's find the DeLorean. John DeLorean builds a sports car, the DMC-12. Now, you've got to remember, this is in July of 1977. This car was nowhere near production yet. Obviously, on the drawing board, they had a prototype built, big plans, and it was a very interesting article. There's some pictures. In fact, if you guys can see this picture very well here or not, but obviously a prototype DeLorean, definitely not what we're used to seeing as far as production cars. And that's kind of what this article was about, was where it was heading, what it was doing. But what I found the most interesting about it was a side note to this article. And that's where I'm going to focus on, because we all know the story of the DeLorean. We all know it was stainless steel. We all know it was underpowered. We all know, if you want to get power out of a DeLorean, you needed to add a Mr. Fusion and a flux capacitor. But the story is amazing. But the part of the story that we never hear, they really covered in here that was really exciting to me. Oh, wow. Old School says one of his buddies at Wells Auto in Canada restores DeLoreans. So Justin Sucrage at Wells Auto in Canada restores DeLoreans and is a big DeLorean guy. So obviously there were several pages in this DeLorean article about where it was going, the stainless steel, all the technological innovations. What was the most interesting, and here's where I want to focus, is this part of the article. Especially, and here again, now that hindsight's 2020, when we know today what actually brought all this down after it fell apart. Launching a car company, finances are the hard part. This I found very interesting. We all know the story of the car, and most of us know the story as to what happened when John DeLorean needed money after they started building the cars. And we all know the story. There was an investment opportunity to make a lot of money really, really fast, and turned out to be basically a drug trafficking deal that he was backing, even though he didn't know it. He got busted for it, went down for it, and didn't really. Yeah, cocaine. It was a cocaine deal, is what old school says. Even though he didn't even realize what he was backing, it still was led to the demise of the company. But what I found so interesting about this part of the article, and I even made a copy so I could highlight points of it, because I don't want to write my old magazines. But at this time, and you remember, this is 1977 numbers that we're talking about. In 1977, they were estimating he needed $85 to $90 million to get the car into production. So, Video Bob on YouTube turns them into Back to the Future replicas. So if you like them, check out Video Bob. Ironhead Garage says it wasn't just Coke; it was lots of Coke. So yeah, and that's what it was. Like I said, he didn't even know it, but that's what it was, and that's what happened. The interesting thing about the investor side of the DeLorean saga, and that's why I found this part of the article so fascinating, because we all know there's stainless steel. We all know all that. DeLorean's plan to generate cash at this point in July of 77, after the prototype was built, getting ready to build the cars, they had filed with the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, to sell 2 million shares of the company at $5 a share. That's where they were going to raise the money to get this $85 to $90 million startup, and and try to have a little room. However, what made it more, we're all used to hearing about IPOs and everything, and it's commonplace to go to to hear about an initial public offering and things like that. And there's always a big spike and a big to do about it and everything. With DeLorean stock purchase option, to get in, they call it no ordinary stock offering, because the only way that you could buy DeLorean stock is if you were an established dealer. You had to be an established dealer. They were considering you a dealer associate. You had to own at least 25% of a dealership. There was a minimum share purchase of 5,000 shares at $5 a share. So the minimum investment was $25,000. And you got to remember, this is in 1977 numbers, when a new car was about $5,000. So $5,000-6,000, bought you a new car. So $25,000 investment. And the reason they wanted dealers to do that is you had to agree to purchase a minimum of 50 to 150 DMC 12s during the first 24 months of production. So not only was it just an IPO, it was a very defined, very specific IPO as to who was even going to be eligible to buy them. Our buddy Matty, he works at O'Reilly's. He said they've got a flux capacitor in stock, so if you need one, swing by O'Reilly's, you can pick one up. But I never knew any of that about it. I mean, obviously we know the story of the car, but the way this was all structured was fascinating. I don't know if you guys enjoy it or not, if you think it's boring, but I thought it was interesting. Their plan was to get a minimum of 150 dealers signed up through this process, with a target of 400 dealers throughout this process. So that's where they were headed with it. What they needed was, they figured they needed $4 million in salaries, $7 to $11 million to develop a prototype, another $1 million for marketing, and then another $75 million for buildings, equipment, tooling, et cetera, building the pilot cars, all that stuff. Let's see. Old school, high risk, high reward. Old school says his parents bought their house in 1977 for $22,000. So, Ironhead, I wonder what happened to the molds for the car. I'm not sure, Ironhead, that company in Texas that does them, they may have some of that stuff because I know they ended up with a lot of it. There's a company in Texas that is going to start making them now that the Low Volume Motor Vehicle Act has been passed. So we'll see how that happens if that comes to fruition. But some of that stuff might be down there because I think they are in the position to actually start remanufacturing the cars. Let's see. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting. And then to top all that off, this was kind of the really interesting part. They're out there telling you all these, you have to be a dealer. You have to invest $25,000 minimum. You have to buy 50 to 150 cars. And when they filed with the SEC for their IPO, they showed a development stage loss of $2.2 million. So, there again, and that's, I understand that's not uncommon at that point to be bleeding like that, but it would have been, a lot nicer if it had, if things were a little more stable when you go out and ask for that kind of money. But that's what they were up against. And then, and something else I had never thought about, because you think about the DeLorean being in the early 80s. Well, this is in 1977 when they're looking for this investor money. Another point there again, this is why I love this part of the article versus just the technological side of the car that most of us are somewhat familiar with. You look at what happened in the 70s, and this is something I didn't think about. And these cars, they were talking $10,000 to $15,000 retail price. They're again almost the cost of a new house. But this wasn't that long after Pantera, which never took off. Great car, Italian design, 351 Cleveland Ford power, never took off. And the other one and there again, in 1977, you think about this. When you think about the early 80s when they were really out and really became popular, this stuff had aged a little bit. But the Bricklin, another car that, big hopes, big dreams, got a few cars out there, but never really went anywhere. This was a similar type format, similar type of market where they were going with this car, and neither one of the other two took off. So you're out asking for investors for another attempt at a similar type car. Plus, with the engines in the DeLoreans, they were very underpowered. Obviously, a Pantera with a 351 Cleveland, had the power, but just the expense and the design was great. But the money it took to buy one, they just never really appealed to enough people to make them a very viable option. And the DeLorean was headed down the same path, and it was even more underpowered. And it was underpowered. So, let's see. Old school, bad recession in the early 80s. Yep. Mick says, talk where I live. He was trying to buy a building in the 90s in Central Ohio. Could have been. I don't know what ever happened. John DeLorean kind of disappeared after that because after the drug, he was finally cleared of the drug charges, but by the time he was cleared, everything had fallen apart. Old school, Bricklin was Canadian. Yep. Yeah. 65 F100 was just heading to Bricklin as well. So there again, and that's what's so great about looking back at these old magazines. You've got to put yourself back in that time period. And then some of the stuff that we know today and question today, why did that happen? Well, we look back and some of it makes more sense when you put it in the time period of when it happened. Yeah, Classic Ride Sites. I should have bought a Pantera in the 90s. Absolutely. Those cars have gotten very strong lately. So, but that was what I found so interesting about the DeLorean article. Now, and this is another thing that was right at the end of this article, and they actually have it flagged as a late development clear down at the bottom of the article. The late development was John DeLorean had contacted Car and Driver and said they were nearing an agreement with the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. Now, as we know today, the cars, I believe they were built in Ireland, I think is where they ended up getting a factory. But in 1977, they had entered into a potential agreement with Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico was going to sponsor $67 million of the financing. And they had a 400-acre site that was an old military base where they were going to set them up at. So it's kind of crazy to think about, now that there again, who knew Puerto Rico was part of it? I'm pretty sure it was Ireland is where they ended up building them. But at the time, there was other other people vying for the option to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that segment. That was what I found so fascinating about the DeLorean article. The DeLoreans, we're all familiar with them. We all know a lot about them. That's the side of the stuff that I think is cool because it's kind of the rest of the story that is overlooked. In 1977, it was big news, but it's been overlooked because of so many other stories with the car. So that's why I wanted to throw that in. 65 F100 Panteras rock. Ironhead loves Panteras. Old school. In 74, Tim Horton, a famous hockey player, died in a Pantera. I'm not a big hockey guy, so I don't know much about that. But, I mean, I could see that happening. I mean, because the 351 was a lot of motor in those cars. 65 F100 agrees. The story behind the story. Wasn't the concept of the doors opening upwards new? I mean, Mercedes had it in the mid-50s on the 300, so the gull-wing doors were not new at that point. But obviously a great sales gimmick because nothing, they were so stylish and so outlandish that people thought they were cool. I believe the Bricklands did the same thing as well. So how many did they actually produce? I do not remember, Joe, not off the top of my head. But I don't remember what the exact number was. It was not a ton of them, but they did produce a decent amount, but not tons of them. So anyway, glad you guys enjoyed that. It's something a little different. What else we got in the magazine? We'll kind of keep flipping through here. Like I said, the more I got into it, the more it got, the more cool stuff I found. Some of these we won't spend quite as much time on. Just that part of the DeLorean story was so neat and so intricate. I thought you guys may enjoy it. I don't know if Robert's on tonight, my good buddy Robert, but he is definitely a 70s Mopar guy. This I thought was pretty cool. The Dodge Monaco Police Pursuit. The Police Pursuit Monacos. Yes, Kevin. John DeLorean did work for General Motors for several years. He was one of their golden childs who came up with a ton of great stuff and did a ton of amazing things for GM before he broke out on his own. What did the Brickland run for an engine? I'm positive it was Ford powered at 65 F100. I think it was a 351 as well, but I do not know if it was a Cleveland or a Windsor. I'm sure somebody on here can answer that for us. I'm positive it was Ford, and I'm pretty sure it was 351. I just don't know which one. So if somebody knows that, be sure to let us know if you know for sure. Ralph rode one in the 70s. It was an automatic. It was noisy inside. Yeah. They were AMC. I was mistaken. Old School says they were a 360 AMC. So I could have swore they were Ford powered, but that's why we're all on here. Because like I said, I don't always have the answer, but a lot of you guys do. Caleb just jumped on Facebook. Glad you made it. He's new here. Thanks for stopping by, Caleb. We do this every Sunday evening. Hope you enjoy it and are hanging out with us. One interesting thing about the Monaco police car in 77, it still had a 440 in it. So that was, definitely towards the end of that run of that. Old School says they did have a 351 Windsor as well. So maybe they were both. Okay, yeah, so they were both. Some of them had 360 AMCs. Some of them had 351 Windsors. So that's what I was thinking. There were a 351, but I did not realize some of them did get 360 AMCs. So appreciate that, Old School. Thanks for filling in the gaps there. So the Dodge Monaco Police Pursuit car, that was a pretty neat article to read. They flew through the quarter. This was something else interesting. Of course, we are talking late 70s. They flew through the quarter mile at a stunning 16.3 seconds at 88 miles an hour. And it was there again, thinking back in the 70s about what it was, but it was a pretty big deal in the day to still have that kind of engine in a cop car, even though by today's standards, it was pretty slow. That's right. Scott says Tim Stanger, a friend down near Wichita, he has a Brickland in stock, a project car. Robert, DeLorean was the father of the 64 GTO. Yeah, he was involved in that project as well. Bill got us an answer on the some more answers on the DeLoreans. Roughly 9,000 were built, and it's believed around 6,000 still exist. And it was Ireland. Dunmurry, Ireland is where the plant was at. So thanks for that information, Bill, to fill in some of those gaps for us. So, but that's what's great. Like I said, I don't know everything, but I know a lot of you guys do. So Ralph typed in Arrival and I couldn't figure it out. And then he just typed in the spell check. He tried to type the article and spell check changed it to Arrival. So that makes it a little more clear, Ralph. I'm with you there now. Let's see. What else we got going on here? Let's check out. There's a couple of more articles here towards the back. One of them, real quick, we'll hit. One of them is very interesting. Actually, they're both pretty interesting, but we'll try to not spend a ton of time on them because we got to get to ads and then get into the raffle and the drawing and trivia and everything. So the Herb Adams Trans Am, you got to remember this is 1977. Not a lot of stuff had a ton of teeth. Pontiac went to Herb Adams to try to put some teeth into the Trans Am. In 77, I believe the Trans Am was available with 180 horse or a 200 horse 400 Pontiac. 78, I believe that went to 200 and 220 horse. But we're still talking with 77, so your top car was 200 horsepower. Old school. Anyone that know the smallest production car ever made? It's called a Peel P50. Look it up. So, and 65F100 says it is hilarious. So, check out the Peel P50 if you want a good laugh, because I guess it's the tiniest car ever made. But we're going to get to something here a little bit later, because I think I bought the second tiniest car ever made last week. I haven't picked it up yet, but it is tiny. So I got that. We'll tell you about that in a little bit too. But the Herb Adams Trans Am, they basically, Pontiac, enlisted his help to try to put some teeth to it, make it a competitor, try to build what they could of a performance image in the late 70s. We're kind of starting to come out of the gas crunch, things like that. But really, they didn't do a lot of modifications to the car. They were trying to set them up for SCCA road racing. So obviously, they added a lot of safety equipment to them. But basically, the car itself, or the engine itself, they just did a carbon intake on it, put a dry sump oil system on it for the road course racing so it didn't get starved of oil. And then, of course, suspension parts. So it was kind of interesting to look back to see what they did to try to squeeze some performance out of these cars at that time, doing what they could with what they had. So that was a little bit interesting, starting to see signs of life, and it said Pontiac was involved. So there was attempts, to try to generate excitement, and bring some excitement back at that point. Ironhead Garage says the Peel P50 is a clown car. So that must be hilarious because everybody that's seen it is chiming in. So be sure to check that out. Last article we got for you guys tonight, and I almost missed this. It was clear at the back. But I was so excited when I found the article that we had to include it. The man who loved stunt driving, Hal Needham. Now, I'm sure today most of us know who Hal Needham is. And I know that if there can't be anybody on here that hasn't seen at least one of his movies. Smokey and the Bandit, Cannonball Run. I mean, those were all his babies, and they were all amazing movies. This article... yeah, 65 F100's already and loves the old Trans Ams and Smokey and the Bandit. That's why I've got mine. But what was so great about this article, part of this article was based around the attempt to break the speed of sound on land, set the land speed record and break the speed of sound on land in a wheeled vehicle. And it was a supersonic rocket powered car. He claims they did it. It was never backed up or never confirmed, but he claims they did it. Plus, it was a 3-wheel car. So there has been debate over the years about if he did it, well, it was a 3-wheel car. So is that a regular car? So there's been all kinds of disputes and discussions over that over the years. But there again, this was before the attempt even happened. So we're looking back in time, which is so great. Like Ironhead Garage says, yeah, all the good movies. That's right. He did a ton of good movies. But Hal Needham was such an interesting character. He's got a great book that he wrote before he passed away called Stuntman. I have read it. It is a very good book. Very interesting guy. This article focused a lot on how he got there from his career as a stuntman. And basically, the part of the ploy of this land speed record was marketing. They were making Hal Needham stunt dolls, and he wanted to sell more toys, which, I mean, hey, who can blame him, So that was another part of this attempt to do that. But, Hal Needham was definitely not your typical Hollywood star. He didn't fit in with everybody. He kind of did his own thing, but, walked to his own beat. And when you read this article, you get a lot better sense of the guy that he was. He did kind of get to be larger than life. He was kind of one of those guys, especially in the 80s, after the successes of Smokey and the Bandit, Cannonball Run, Stroker Ace, a lot of those movies that he was involved in. And then, of course, the NASCAR teams, Hal and Bert's Skull Bandit. I mean, if you're my age, who didn't grow up in the 80s watching the Skull Bandit Regals and Monte Carlos? I mean, it was a mainstay on them. But what was really interesting was a few glimpses into Hal Needham from this article. It said, right now, so kind of some reverse snobism referring to Hollywood. Needham drives a Chevy pickup with a 454, side pipes, roll bar, mags, a telephone, and a CB radio. And he drives that to Universal Studios and parks it next to the Mercedes, the Jags, the Rolls Royces. So definitely kind of walks to the beat of a different drummer and does his own thing. He did have some, directing work in the 70s with some of the movies that listed was Gator, Lucky Lady, The French Connection, Little Big Man. And he was getting into some of that. And then it got into just a little bit of one that we all love about Smokey and the Bandit. Old School's got to bail off. Glad you made it. Tonight, Old School, Ironhead Garage, 65 F100. They all like what they're hearing about Hal Needham. But it says after he did some of this directing work, Needham figured he could turn out movies that were just as good. He sat down with some yellow legal pads and wrote out the treatment for an action comedy called Smokey and the Bandit. Roommate Reynolds liked it and agreed to star. They put it to Universal as an all-or-none package with Needham directing, and Universal agreed. Heated with success, Needham punched out another thriller, a Western this time, called Wyatt. And that was literally all said about Smokey and the Bandit. Because at the time, and this is kind of, there again, we're looking back in time, I looked up to see when Smokey and the Bandit was released. Smokey and the Bandit was released and hit theaters, I believe it was May of 77. This is the July issue. So this would have been written in, into May, June. Smokey and the Bandit had just hit theaters when they wrote this article about Hal Needham. And that was all they said about Smokey and the Bandit. That, he sat down with the yellow pads, wrote it, thought it was good. Universal agreed, and they did it. They didn't even know what they had created when this article was written. They didn't even know what had happened yet. So that's what I thought was so cool and so interesting about this part of this article. So anyway, let's catch some cool ads and keep on moving here. I don't want to keep you guys hung up all night. I hope you guys are enjoying it. We've still got quite a few people on, so let's check out some ads and see, and then we'll get into a few other things yet tonight. But I thought this was a great ad for Firestone Tires. And I just thought Firestone Tires were Firestone Tires. No, 65 F100, one of the biggest of all times. That's exactly right. That's what happened. They didn't even know it when they wrote this article that we just looked at. That's what was so cool about it. Firestone Tires apparently had it's Sally Fields. That's exactly right. Ironhead Sally Fields as well. A marketing campaign for Firestone Tires just called them they were calling their tires the Stones, the family of Stones. And it's a great ad, definitely a 70s ad. It's definitely some 70s rides. The Ford pickup, step side, the van, the second-gen Camaro, the slotted mags, and the family of Stones, the van down here at the bottom, talking about loving the Stones for Firestone Tires. Never seen this marketing campaign before. Thought it was really cool, really interesting, but definitely a 70s ad. Let's see. One thing I do notice about these articles, these magazines from the 70s, lots of cigarette ads. Holy cow, there's a lot of cigarette ads in them. This I thought was kind of cool. The new Chrysler LeBaron. Yeah, Rolling Stones. That's exactly what I think. That's where they were going with it, with the Rolling Stones and rolling on your Firestone. So, introducing the Chrysler LeBaron, a personal car, just like we were talking about on prices with the funding of the DeLorean project. a brand new Chrysler LeBaron, very majestic looking ad, still ad out, reflecting off the water. 56.67 bought you a brand new LeBaron, when you were looking at almost 3 times that for a new DeLorean. So what was the market going to bear at that point? The Marlboro Man was definitely big in the 70s as well. That's for sure. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I thought this next ad was rather interesting. Kevin says bad recall in 2001. I'm not sure where we were at or when you typed that in, Kevin. I'm sure you typed that in when we were talking about something, but it probably didn't feed it right away, so maybe I missed it. But obviously, with all the mail order companies for everything anymore, especially tires, I thought this was kind of interesting. It's not a new concept. Euro Tire was doing it in Car and Driver in 1977, where you could order your tires directly out of Car and Driver magazines. So with the way things have gone in the world today, the Firestone Tire recall. That's right. Okay, I'm with you now, Kevin. Yeah, I remember the Firestone Tire recall because that was back when I worked for Chrysler, and a lot of the Chrysler stores some of those were joint Ford stores too. So yeah, I do remember that well. Thanks for clarifying that. I just wasn't hanging with you on that one. So, but yeah, the mail order tire business definitely isn't a new thing either. Couple more, and then we're going to get moving on. This I thought was very interesting, talking about trying to. Ironhead says he wants to order some new Firestones too. So, trying to talk about trying to get something out of cars for the 70s for performance. They were trying with anything, and I got proof of it. You may not think they were trying to get performance out of anything, but I got proof of it. Classic Ride Side, I love checking out the mail order custom shirt ads. Yeah, I remember those too. Pinto owners, up your Pinto power. So they were literally trying to get performance out of anything they could get. You could order information, hop up performance parts for your Pinto. And it's right here in print. So they were actually doing it. So that's kind of interesting as well. 65 F100, his dad blowing a new 721 tire on his 75 Mercury. One other quick ad, a little bit off pace from what we typically do, but the concept of why it's here compared to today's world is why I liked it. Yeah, hopping up 65 horsepower. That's right. This is a Porsche ad, which we don't do a lot of that type of stuff on here, but nice ad, full color. And what I really thought it was interesting about this article was the fact that they were promoting the turbo. Obviously, in 77, the turbo Buicks were coming out for 78, and Porsche was the only other manufacturer using a production-based turbo on a production car. So, even though we don't do much Porsche stuff on here, the way this article was written, with the way we look at turbos today, and for as commonplace as they are today in everything, I found that kind of interesting as well. So, Ironhead's wife had a Pinto when he met her. He said it went bye-bye. So, anyway, that's what we've got for the magazine. Hope you guys enjoyed it tonight. Kind of touched on some different stuff, went over some different things, and I liked the DeLorean part of it. I hope you guys did as well, since it was a little bit different. Let's get to some trivia. Let's get to the raffle, and then we'll talk about what's going on for this week in videos, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. So, Olds used the turbo in the early 60s. Olds and Corvair had them in the early 60s. They were very limited, and there were not very many of them out there. So it wasn't the first time it had been used in production, but they were the only companies using them in the late 70s, trying to revive that technology. And we actually caught some of that in one of the magazines a few weeks ago. In fact, it was some new news coming out for I think it was a 62 or 60. I think it was a 62 magazine. It was talking about speculation of whether the turbo was going to take off, because they were using it on the Corvair and the little F85s, but it never did. And in 70, started using it again, which obviously eventually evolved into the Grand National. And today, turbos are used on all kinds of stuff. You look at the no prep guys with Larry Larson and some of those guys, and the massive turbos they're running, and the twin turbo setups with all the computer and electronic management they can use on them. Pretty amazing what they can do with them. But so yeah, they weren't the first ones, but they were the only ones at that time trying to bring them back, and eventually stuck with them until fuel injection and electronics really made them very useful. By the time they evolved into the Grand National and GNX in the late 80s. So trivia for tonight. Got another question for you guys off of a video. Got a can right here. Another can. This is a metal can, mobile transmission sealer and conditioner. It's a kind of a tall, skinny can, not a full quart. It does have the small Pegasus on the side, sealed on the top, drained from the bottom. A little bit of fading and stuff, but overall pretty decent looking, and an original steel can. Got a lot of the warnings and the information on the back. I'm sure it says don't drink this, but of course, I don't know. This is old enough. They might not have had to put "don't drink this" on these cans back then. It's old enough that they probably didn't have to put it on there at that point. Yeah, it doesn't say anywhere on here you can't drink it. So, but anyway, that's going to go to the winner tonight. A little bit trickier of a question. Well, I think it's a little bit trickier of a question. Somebody will probably get it right away. But Friday night, we checked out another video with our good friend Doug Prey from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. We got into the Cord 810, 812, and the revised or reintroduced, I guess, cord that his dad built in the 60s. Now, we all know, if you've been following the videos, that Glenn Prey bought the company in 1960. What year did he announce he was going to bring the cord back? Yeah, Classic Ride Society. What are you trying to say about today's youth? Well, whenever they made this can, they didn't have to tell you not to drink it. So that says something. But anyway, looking for that year when the announcement was made that we're going to build a new modern day cord. So what year was that Glenn Prey made that announcement? Now we're going to get ready to do the raffle for tonight, as I keep an eye out for a year for that answer to send this can to somebody. We've got the box right here full of badges. It says 2 right there. We got to put somebody's name right there here shortly. We'll take one more look at them. I've got everybody's name in the big Buick can. Here's what somebody's going to win. The Dodge badge. This is one of the rougher ones. The Oldsmobile badge. The Ford Blue Oval. The Buick. The Chevrolet. The Plymouth. And the 3 Diamond International. So let's get to it. We'll go through the names of who is in, just to make sure I've got everybody. I don't want to miss anybody if somebody thought they bought their chances and they didn't come through for some reason. So still looking for the year the cord was reintroduced. Keep an eye on both formats, whoever pops up. Ironhead Garage says 58. No, it wasn't 58. So here is who is in. Tim Lewis is in. Terry Hewlett is in. Scott Andrews is in. Mike Shook. George Collada. James Erickson. Chris Powers. Jason Withrow. Jessica's in. Lance Smith. George Collada's in again. He dove in twice. Lee Carr. Seth Russell. And Greg Myers. If I did not read your name and you paid me, there we go. Scott Andrews got it. 1963. That is correct, Scott. He bought the company in 1960. And in 1963, he announced that he was going to bring them back. He announced it was a timeless design and it needed to live on and that was when they made the announcement that the car was going to come back. It was going to be a little bit smaller because at that time, Gordon Burig, who was the original designer, was working for Ford. He could not legally consult on another car since he was under contract with Ford, but he did tell Glenn Prey that there is a new car coming out that Ford is in development that is going to be a more sportier, smaller type car, which we know today as the Mustang. And he suggested that they downsize the Cord slightly, which they did. And it actually ended up being 8/10 of the size of the original Cord. So the Glen Prey Cord is called basically the 8/10 Cord because it was slightly smaller and it was Corvair powered because they wanted to make sure the car was still front wheel drive, just like the original 36 and 37 Cords were. However, there were no production front wheel drive cars in the United States at that time. So they figured, they did some measuring and literally walked down the street with a yardstick until they found a Corvair sitting on the side of the street so they could crawl under it and do some measuring. Realized the dimensions of the Corvair engine and transaxle would fit the design they were working on. So that's where that came about from. And it's a very interesting story. If you didn't catch that video, it's a little bit long, but it's very fascinating. And you can always get the books. They've got the books. You can order them from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company. Fascinating story. And then we've got another video where they're going to get into the Boattail Speedster, the second generation of the Boattail Speedster. So 1963, congratulations to our friend Scott. We'll get that can sent to him. And but that's when he made the announcement that he was going to build cars. And they did. However, it didn't go as planned like he had wanted. And eventually he ended up walking away from the company. And that's when he started on the second generation of the Auburn Speedsters. So, but be sure to check that video out. You can get the whole story. Doug does a very good job of explaining it to us. See, Dan said he had it, but he hit the wrong number. So, well, like I said, to be fair, Dan, I got to go with the first correct answer, and 1966 wasn't it. So, apologize for that. Maybe we can catch you next week. But anyway, that's the story. Be sure to catch that video if you didn't. The furnace kicked on in his office and made it a little difficult to hear through part of that video. But very interesting story. Like I said, if nothing else, be sure to order the book and to learn more about it. A lot of things going on in the car world that, we look back today and get the whole story. It's very interesting and exciting to learn that stuff now. So anyway, who wants to see who wins the badges? All the names I just read off. If you paid me or attempted to pay me and I did not read your name off in this packet, then get with me and we'll get you in on this month and try to find out what the snafu was. But anyway, everybody that's in this packet that I read your name off, your name is in the big Buick can for as many times as you bought. If you bought 5 chances, you're in there 5 times, 10, you're in there 10 times, etc., etc. So Ironhead's in. So yeah, we're going to shake them up. They're all in there. Lots of names in there. I'm not going to even look. We're just going to pick one. So here we go. I've got one. I've got one right here. It is Greg Myers is our winner tonight. So Greg, I'll go back through. I'll have to see if I've got your address on your paperwork. I don't remember. But Greg Myers is our winner tonight. So appreciate everybody playing, having fun with these. I hope you guys enjoy them. And we'll keep doing them as long as you guys like them. So Greg Myers, I'll see if I've got your mailing information. If not, give me a call after we get done or give me a shout tomorrow to make sure we get that to you. So I think you were actually one of the first ones to jump in, if I remember correctly. So glad you did, and you're our big winner tonight. Now, obviously, it's a new month, time for a new raffle. Everybody saying congratulations to Greg. Hope you're on tonight. Glad you played, and thanks to everybody else for playing. Like I said, as long as we keep floating it, I'll keep rounding stuff up for it. Obviously, the trip to the Auburn Cord Duesenberg factory was great. James says James is ready James is excited because he's already ready to win, and he doesn't even know what it is. So that's okay. George wants to buy the Olds badge, Greg. So if you want to sell the Olds badge, George is your man. My good friend Bill Twitch is on. Glad you made it, Bill. But when we were at the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company, we did a ton of video, lots more videos coming up there. But got to know Doug Prey real well, got to be good friends with him, and he likes what we're doing here. So I said, let's do some of your stuff, Doug. So he made me a deal on a couple of cool pieces that we're going to add for this, that we're going to do for this month's raffle. Straight from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg factory, Newell stock parts directly out of the factory. So here's what we've got. You've seen some of this stuff on Toy Tuesday on the stuff that I bought. Well, we got a few extra pieces, and like I said, he treated me right. He made me a good deal to take care of you guys. Auburn hubcap, brand new. This is the old grease caps, late 20s, early 30s. This one's really nice. Beautiful piece. Great wall hanger. Great conversation piece. Another Auburn hubcap. Different style. This one has a few dingies and stuff in it because it's been on the shelf for 90 years. I do know I've seen some of these, and these were wrapped up. These, were not. So this is not as perfect. It's got a few chips in the paint and things like that, a few scuffs. But once again, we look at the back side of it. And these things, once they've had grease in them, you're almost impossible to get them clean. So there again, another Newell stock Auburn hubcap. And one other piece from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Museum. Or not the museum, the factory. The museum's in Auburn, Indiana. This is straight out of the parts bin that was moved from Auburn, Indiana to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma in 1960. It's brand new. It was never put on a car. It's at least 90 years old. But it is a brand new ID tag for an Auburn. Never stamped, straight out of the drawer, straight from the factory. So backside, brand new. Like I said, this came, I saw where it was at. So these are some pretty cool pieces. Obviously, I bought some of the stuff from my own collection. Thought, man, this would be some great stuff for this month's raffle. This is not a lot of this stuff out there. I mean, this is new. It's 90 years old, and it's new. Straight out of the parts bins that were moved straight from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company. This is the stuff that was left over when they filed bankruptcy in 1938. This is the stuff that was moved to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma in 1960. So you guys got a chance to win it. So that's the raffle for April. The Auburn cap, it's all Auburn stuff, and the brand new, never used ID tag for an Auburn. So I hope you guys are as stoked about it as I am, because obviously I bought it for this stuff for my collection, and like I said, Doug treated me right on these so we could get some of this stuff out to you guys, and hope you guys are excited about it too. Like, same deal as last time. $1 a chance. You can PayPal me. You can mail it in. CSE3@cox.net. Everybody else, 65 F100's got a bail. Glad you made it. For a while tonight, lots of comments popping up though. Let's catch a bunch of these. So far, lots of comments on the Auburn stuff. So about half dozen guys instantly said that's really cool stuff. So hope you guys like it. So I'm going to be mailing that to somebody 1st of May. So same deal, $1 a chance. PayPal me, CSE3@cox.net, or you can mail it to 522 Morton in Great Bend, Kansas. I'll put that information on the pages. But I hope you guys are enjoying this automobile raffle stuff. It's cool stuff. I love it. I hope you guys love it. I hope that's why you're here. So get in. Be sure to jump in. Get your Scott Andrews is on, and he likes them, and he's already in actually, because he sent me money last month. Said, here, put part of it in for this month, part of it in for next month. So he didn't know what it was till just now, and he already wanted in. So he's already got some chances in for this stuff. My buddy BJ says it looked great on his wall as well. So anyway, get your chances in. You can mail it in. You can PayPal me on it, and we'll start refilling the big Buick can for next month. I'm going to dump all these out. And then I'm going to put Scott's back in and then start filling your guys' up as I get them. So there's the new raffle. I hope you're excited about it. I know I am. And so far from the responses I'm seeing, I think everybody is pretty excited about it. So, but, and that's what I love about the different stuff like that. I mean, Auburn's were amazing cars. You should have seen some of the ones that we saw there that we've got videos coming on. A 29 boat tail speedster fully restored. Yeah, like James says, that is cool, and you just don't see it. But I've got a video coming on the 29 boat tail speedster that was there. I've got some videos coming on the shop where they had a V12 in a chassis that was overhauled, ready to go. They had the motor sitting in the chassis, stuff like that. They had a car there that was absolutely one of the most amazing, most stunningly beautiful cars I've ever seen. I've got a video coming on that. 1934, I believe, Auburn Salon Phaeton, one of like 20 cars built. It's just amazing. It's stuff you just don't see because there was 20 of them. There wasn't a lot of them out there. That's what's so awesome about it. That's why I love stuff like this, especially from some of those cars that were not mass produced. They weren't Model Ts and Model A's where they were everywhere. These were Auburns and Cords and stuff like that. It was so awesome and so different. So that's why I like it. I'm glad you guys are excited about it. Let's send this stuff off to somebody. Appreciate Doug Pray's help in bringing this and putting this raffle together for this month. And I know he'll be excited that you guys are excited about it as well, because he does it for the same reason. He loves it. His dad loved it. He loves it. And that's why we're here. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. What's coming up this week for videos? Some new inventory, 1952 Dodge truck video. Mick's jumping off. He'll see us later this week. Glad you made it for a while tonight, Mick. We got a video coming on a 52 Dodge truck I picked up last week. Did a couple of cool videos in the yard. I don't know which one we'll throw up yet. I got the F-body video we talked about that I know you guys have been wanting to see, or Adam's definitely been wanting to see some F-bodies. Got the F-body video. Got a video on a truck that I've had there for a while that I just never really thought about. It's a super cool box truck, 39 Ford box truck. So it's kind of cool. What else? Oh, did another video on some more new inventory that's going to be coming up. So did another video in the new yard. So lots of cool stuff coming. The 52 Dodge truck video will get up. Bought some more stuff last week I need to get picked up. James has to bail off. Glad you made it for a while tonight, James. So some more stuff I got to go get this week. 35 Chevy truck, 39 Ford truck, and probably the second smallest car in the world next to the one that we were just talking about. I don't even know what it is. It's it's Italian. I think it's a Auto Bianchi or something like that. The whole car is like 10 feet long. So, or I guess what's left of the car. It's pretty rough, but it's pretty neat too. So we'll be picking some of that stuff up this week, bringing some videos on some of that. So stay tuned. There's lots of stuff coming there. Plus, we'll do another video from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company. And this video will be a follow-up to the discussion we just had about the Cord 810 and about how his dad actually, kind of, walked away from that company and due to multiple reasons when they were going into production, and said, if I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do something else, but by God, I'm going to do it again. And that's when the Glen Prey Auburn boat tail speedsters, the second generation of those, became reality. So we'll get into that story probably Friday night. I'll throw that video up. So stay tuned for some new inventory videos, as well as the story of the second generation Auburn speedster, the Glen Prey Auburn speedster. And then there's another one coming, the Gen 3. There is a G3 Auburn speedster that is also coming that Doug is in the process of developing right now. And it will be a hand-formed steel body on an original Auburn chassis with original Auburn running gear, except they're going to build the engines and transmissions with modern technology to make them a much more drivable, much more user-friendly car. So that's some exciting things coming up there. So stay tuned. Be sure to check that out. Like I said, we all got some more reason to be interested in Auburns now, because somebody's going to win some Auburn collectibles for their collection. Be sure to check those guys out. Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company on Facebook. Be sure to check their page out. Give them a like. I'm told Doug I'd help him out with some of that stuff. Jim says, if they have the Auburn, Indiana Labor Day week show, we all need to go. Yeah. And that would be great too. I'd love to go see that museum as well. My daughter's always wanted to go see that museum. And probably even more so now that we know more of the story and have a little bit of an insight to the story. So be sure to check out the Auburn Court Duesenberg Company on Facebook. Like I said, give those guys a like. Keep up with what's going on. We're going to be putting a lot of cool content up on there as well. I'm helping Doug with that. We're working together on a lot of that type of stuff. So great to meet people in this industry. And like I said, we're all here for the same reason, because we're all gearheads, and we can pretty much all relate to each other. And that's why this deal works. And that's why this deal's turned into so much fun. It's all of you guys stopping by, hanging out. I mean, last week, we've been on here for an hour and a half, and you guys are still hanging out with me. It's amazing. Can't thank you enough. Can't believe you do it. But it's the group that we have on here that is really making it go. So, if you've got friends that want to jump in, be sure to invite them, and so they can start hanging out with us. We're obviously having a ton of fun on here, and I love to. I love the fact that all you guys are so in depth in the chat, and we help each other out. And even the answers I don't have, you guys are right there for me to help share the knowledge with everybody. Dan says I would love it. I'm sure I would. We've actually talked about it a couple times. Good friend of mine covers it every year. Phil Skinner from California. He covers that event. He writes for Old Cars Weekly and a few other publications, and he always covers it. He's always told me I'm more than welcome. So it would be cool to see. Thanks, Gasser. Glad you enjoyed it tonight. Glad you had fun on the chat and thought it was great. That pretty much covers what I've got for tonight. I hope you guys all enjoyed all of it. We'll get ready to start signing off. As always, if you got any other questions, be sure to throw them up there, and we'll sure try to catch them. Thanks, Ironhead. Ironhead says I do a great show. It's I couldn't do a great show without you guys. I guarantee you that. Bill Twitchell says thanks to me, he's still learning stuff. Well, we all learn stuff. So Kevin enjoys the show. We're all learning, and that's the other great part about it. And that's the great part about this hobby, is we're always all learning. There's always something different to learn. Just like Auburn's. I don't know much. Didn't know much about Auburn's before, other than they were amazing cars, and this is cool stuff. So they were amazing. They were luxury cars back in the in some of the, back in the 20s and 30s, before the Depression, and you don't see them anymore. So that's why I love bringing that stuff to the table. The Withrows are watching us as they're driving down the interstate. So, well, I'm glad you were able to get on with us, and glad you even thought about signing on while you were driving. So be safe out there on your way home. But my buddy BJ had a great time tonight. And like I said, it's all you guys. Even when I don't have the answers, I know you guys are there to help answer it for our other viewers. And that's why it's a chat. That's why it's not the Chad Show, because it isn't the Chad Show. This is a chat of a bunch of gearheads hanging out, having a good time. So really appreciate it. Stay tuned. Like I said, we'll get the Dodge truck video up. We'll do Toy Tuesday live. Ironhead says Chad for president. I don't know if we need to get quite that carried away. So, but I am glad you guys enjoyed it. Lots of comments popping up on both formats about that, and like I said, I do appreciate the support. It really makes me want to do it. Sometimes it's a lot of work getting this ready every night, going through and building these sheets and getting some notes laid out. But it's worth it when we're all on here hanging out, having a blast. Richard made it. He's late, but he made it. Well, you made it. We're wrapping up, but at least you made it for part of it. So I'm glad you did. So, Kevin is interested in going to Meekum in Houston. I'm sure it's going to be a great sale. That's for sure. William says, thanks. Hey, I'm glad you made it, William. Like I said, it's all you guys that chime in and help with the chat. And that's why it's a chat. That's why it's not the Chad Show. It's not me, or you, or it's not me and I. It's all of us, and it's a chat with a bunch of gearheads, and that's what makes it work. So Toy Tuesday, we'll do some more cool stuff that I picked up from my personal collection at the Auburn Court Duesenberg factory. Maybe we'll do the grill. Y'all know I like grills. I got a lot of grills in my shop, like an obsessive amount of grills, like more grills than I probably should have, because I should sell the grills. But grills are too cool, and I love them. So I have all these badges and grills. So I got a super cool grill. Maybe we'll catch that on Toy Tuesday. Joe says, see you next week. He liked the magazine tonight. Glad you did. Like James says, fantastic show. Never stop learning new stuff. Well, I'm glad I'm finding good content that you guys are enjoying, and I'm glad you guys are right there to help with the chat and help answer the questions that I can't. So, and then Wednesday night we'll catch probably something out of the yard. Maybe we'll throw them F bodies up Wednesday night, and then we will catch the story of the second generation of the Auburn Bowtail Speedster with Doug Prey on Friday. So. Ironhead Garage says, everyone have a great week, and I second that motion. Richard says grills are good, so that's what's awesome. I love grills. They are the focal point, the identifying point of a car, so that's why I love them. But just like Ironhead Garage says, everybody have a great week. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Appreciate you spending a pretty decent chunk of your Sunday evening with me. I'm still amazed that everybody does, but glad that you do. And it means a lot, and we're having a ton of fun, and it's because your guys' support and involvement and jumping in and making it happen. So, thanks everybody. I hope to see a lot of you back on 7:00 on YouTube Tuesday night for Toy Tuesday. We'll try to do that live this Tuesday. We will be on YouTube on the Nobody Show channel. So if you're on Facebook, that'll be live on YouTube to check out on there. I typically just do that by myself, so I can only do one format when I do Toy Tuesday. So Bill says thanks. Kevin says thanks. Well, thanks to you guys. We'll keep an eye out for a few more seconds. Like I said, Greg, if you're on tonight and I don't have your address, be sure to give me a call tomorrow so I get that. Shane says, Chad, 2024. I don't think I want that headache. So. I'd rather mess with old cars and hang out with all you guys, so it's a lot more fun. But thanks for watching, everybody. That looks like it on comments for tonight. We'll see you live Tuesday night for Toy Tuesday, and absolutely hope to see you back here next Sunday night, 7:00 Central Standard Time for Sunday night live chat. Be sure to get your chances in early for the Auburn memorabilia drawing because you don't want to miss out on this stuff. And in fact, I think our winner tonight was literally one of the first ones that got in, if I remember correctly. I'll flip back here because I think it was back here towards the back of the stack. Yeah, he was one of the first ones in, very first week of March. So be sure to get in on that. We will give that away real quick. When did I mark that down? May 2nd. We're going to wrap that drawing up May 2nd. For the Auburn memorabilia. Forgot to tell you guys that. So we'll shoot for May 2nd for giving that away and announce the new raffle for May. That looks like about it. Thanks, everybody. Ironhead Garage is clapping. Appreciate that. Jerry says thanks. So let's get rolling. I'm going to get to work. Everybody's got to get ready to go to work in the morning. I'm going to get a few more things done yet tonight. See you Tuesday night. Hope to see you back here next Sunday. Tell your friends, let's hang out. Let's have another good time next Sunday night. And have a good chat. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night. Be safe out there this week, and we'll see you next Sunday.